Welcome to the Monday edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. We'll take a comprehensive look at what is forecast for the next 8 days. And as you can see on the slide here, I just overlaid a lot of those forecasts. They really tend to concentrate in the Central Plains, and we'll dive right into it. Hello, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Let's take a look at the overview, which usually always means taking a look at the 500 millibar flow and winds and see what's up. And generally, if you're looking for severe weather anywhere, especially in the central and eastern U.S., you want a trough of low pressure out over the western U.S., basically. And then you have little short waves like this. So that's embedded right there on Wednesday. That's the forecast for Wednesday. Right there in what is establishing a longer wave pattern of a trough out here, and you see another one coming ashore. So this is a constant theme that goes actually well beyond the next 8 days, as you'll see. So this is a look at, this is the EPS, and we also have the GEFS, the American version. I just chose one model for the sake of brevity today, and they are in pretty good agreement, although pretty good is not good enough when you're trying to get a real detailed forecast. But keep in mind, of course, that the more days you go out, the uncertainty increases, so that's why we keep looking at these things and updating them. Anyway, is there some severe weather connected with this on Wednesday? It looks like there would be. If you look at the moisture and instability that's connected to it, Cape, there's some flowing up through Texas and up into Arkansas and parts of southeast Missouri, maybe even as far as southern Indiana and parts of Kentucky on Wednesday. So how much of that is able to come up through this area is, of course, always an important question mark. I do want you to note that the higher capes are the darker blues, but I also want you to know, as I keep showing you these maps, that nothing really scrapes this out or scours the Gulf. No front ever makes it that far south. That does allow, with time, for instability to just kind of hang out down here, only awaiting the next surge of southerly winds to bring that back into play ahead of a storm system. So just keep that in mind. So this is Wednesday. Here's Thursday. That little short wave moves up into the Ohio Valley. Another pretty steep, sharp short wave comes ashore, again, trying to establish a longer wave trough pattern here and being successful. That's Thursday. So let's take a look at what Thursday's moisture looks like. A return of moisture up into the Great Plains with some of those darker blue colors indicating 1,000 Cape or higher. This time of year, that's more than adequate. The shear, which is another thing we look for, just the development of a supercell. A supercell is vital to any severe weather. If you don't have a supercell, it's really hard to produce it. And two of the three variables we look at, which is hail and high winds, a supercell can easily obtain. Tornadoes, one last little thing is needed, that little boost in the lower atmosphere of either energy or wind to produce spin. And the more days you go out, the less likely it is that we're going to know with any kind of precision what that's going to do. But anyway, I just wanted to reveal and talk about that. So supercell development is much more probable when you have this instability and the proper wind shear. And on Friday, again, we're seeing now the establishment of a long wave trough here over the western half of the country. Little short waves are embedded in it, like this one, and also this one. And what's interesting about this one is it looks like it's going to cut off this system, and that's another can of worms. But on Friday, we're basically looking at this zone to see what happens out here in the warm sector, as they say. So the instability is not real pronounced. It's much more widespread on Friday. Again, the product of just letting days and days of this happen and trying to establish a long wave. You're just going to see southerly winds a lot over this area. Now, there are some problems with this. I mean, it's a little more unstable right along the front. There's a big hole right there over the Ozarks, and then the really unstable stuff is down here. So it remains to be seen how much of that can actually get back into the plains on Friday. And then we go ahead to Saturday. Again, this system at this point looks like it's going to cut off. Now, these don't always materialize like they should. It really kind of depends on a lot of things that are happening out over the Pacific. But that's the current thinking for Saturday. And the moisture and the instability, part of it still flowing northeast into the Ohio River Valley, and a lot of the more significant stuff staying down along coastal areas of Texas and Louisiana. So that's kind of the overview of what's happening between now and Saturday. Let's go day by day here with the outlook. So tomorrow, Tuesday, the Storm Prediction Center is saying a 1 out of 5 chance for a good chunk of southeast Kansas and western Oklahoma, Wichita definitely included in that. That would primarily, I think, be I don't think the tornado threat's real high with that. But hail, especially, and maybe a few gusty winds. And if you look at CSU's thunderstorm probability for that same time period, pretty good match, especially on the hail, and especially right there in northwestern Oklahoma. Tornado threat not really up factor. Now let's go ahead to Wednesday. And we see this kind of grow over the last couple of days. This was confined to an area like here. Now it's growing upwards a little bit. Folks listening to me in the Ozarks, I'll do a special heads up on this later today. But, this is a 1 to 2 chance from a lot of the Ozarks. And the higher probability is from western Arkansas down to Dallas. So Dallas would be included in this. Fort Smith would be included in the 2 out of 5 category, I-40 there. And so that's Wednesday. Let's see what the CSU probability looks like. It does pinpoint a 2% tornado risk in northwest Arkansas. So that's something to just kind of keep an eye on. Hail threat and wind threat, a little diminished actually. The overall threat on this particular outlook is a little less in some areas than it was on Tuesday. Now, turning our attention, this is Wednesday, turning our attention to Thursday. This looks like a high plains setup here, and with the dry line right there in the center of the panhandle of Texas, it looks like. So Amarillo, Lubbock, Odessa, Midland area, all kind of on the edge of this. Areas east of there are more targeted at this point. And we can compare this, because this is nice the way CSU does this. They put the SPC Outlook on the right side, and they put their probabilistic look here on the left. And there's pretty good agreement here. And at this point in the forecast cycle, they don't break it down by the 3 severe weather types anymore. They just say any severe weather. So that's in pretty good agreement. And then Friday looks like a big day. This keeps morphing and moving around a little bit. Actually, it's expanded a little bit since yesterday. So the severe thunderstorm outlook from the SPC for Friday, at this point, this many days out, they just break it down by 15 or 30%, and they don't do categories like tornadoes or hail or strong winds. It's just a blanket outlook. So this is pretty significant. This stretches from North Texas through the heart of Oklahoma, the eastern half of Kansas, up into northwest Missouri, maybe even into parts of Iowa on Friday. And so again, that's that outlook there. And here's the probabilities outlined by CSU. And the only real difference here is it brings them much farther up into the northeast, into Illinois, including Chicago and those areas. And there's one last day, Saturday. Looks like the moisture sags south along with the instability. So Dallas is back in the game, as is much of north and northeast Texas. And CSU's look at that, shifts that a little bit more to the east than what the current probability is from the SPC. Again, at this distance, it gets a little harder to really nail those down, but the overall trend is clear. Again, we look at the Supercell Composite Index published by NIU, Northern Illinois University. This is basically for this week, the 2nd through the 8th. So again, we have some probabilities of supercells, but not great. Better down in Texas and Oklahoma, maybe parts of Oklahoma for the next week. So that's an average over a 7-day period. Just keep that in mind. And then if we go to the next 7-day period, March 9th through the 15th, we definitely see a suppression of the instability. Mostly the jet stream will be flowing through here, it looks like, without a lot of trouble. So that seems to be at this point where that's all shifting, but I think there might be some room to bring that more to the north through that period. And then I just want to show you that the basically the statistics, the climatology for the month of March for all severe weather probability is highest from southeast Oklahoma straight into the heart of Mississippi, Alabama, including parts of Arkansas and Louisiana, but it's growing. Obviously the month of March has a higher moisture value, warmer weather, stronger jet stream still in place. So all those factors mean that some Marches, like last March, for example, can be really good. This March appears to be, at least on the severe weather side, looking pretty active for the first half. Tornadoes, again, are a more subtle feature that we'll tackle when we get closer to the actual events.